It's Thursday. Welcome to our live show coming to you from ATP World Headquarters. I'm your host, Barry Nussbaum, and we are thrilled that you are joining us today. We have so much to talk about, lots of breaking news, and maybe some that will come up during the show. We're going to start off with probably one of my favorite bills in at least the last couple of decades, that has just passed the House of Representatives. I'm going to tell you about it, and then I'm going to tell you, well, maybe the future isn't as bright as the fact that they passed the bill that I love so much. I'm referring, of course, to the SAVE Act that is just passed through the House of Representatives. It stands for Safeguarding America Voter Eligibility Act. Um, One House Dem voted for it, and every single one of the rest voted against it. Now, why is it important? Well, there's a representative that I happen to love on this subject. Here he is. This is Chip Roy. He's the one that wrote it and put it out. It's the second time it's gone through the House. When I tell you what this bill says, don't be angry when you think that somebody doesn't like this bill. It should be liked by everybody. Chip Roy's bill says that non citizens can't vote in U.S. federal elections. Now, that seems normal. That seems logical. And that seems like everybody ought to say yes to it, right? Wrong. This is the same SAVE bill that he put through last year that the Senate never even looked at. Remember, it's got to go to the House, the Senate, and the President. Here's why this bill is so important. It requires information sharing between state election officials and federal authorities to verify citizenship on the current voter rolls. In other words, dead people can't vote. Venezuelan people can't vote. Illegals that are here that have fake IDs or no IDs can't vote. The purpose is that only Americans can vote, which, by the way, is what the Constitution says. But there's no legal authority that lays out the rules and regulations until now under the SAVE Act. How could anybody vote against this? Why would anyone vote against this? Well, I'll answer those questions. Democrats have attacked the bill because they claim it causes voter suppression. In other words, if you have to show an ID to vote, you probably won't show up. You remember last year, there were a number of legislators that spoke on the SAVE Act when it went through the House in 2025 who said Black people don't have IDs. Black people don't know how to register. And it's incredibly racist to say that, especially when you think about what Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Chinese Americans, short Americans, tall Americans, and so on have to show ID for, like boarding an airplane, going into a military base, going through a TSA checkpoint, going into any federal facility in the country, which are courthouses and so on. If you enter a nuclear power plant, if you go drive your car and get pulled over by a police officer, if you go to a bank to cash a check, if you get a job interview, if you go to a social security office, if you go to a post office and want to mail something, everybody requires ID. Want to buy a gun? ID. Want to buy ammunition? ID. Want to cash a check? ID. We can go on and on and on. IDs are required for everything except the most important right you have as an American. Why? It's simple. There's a certain element of politicians in this country who have decided that they want as many illegals to vote as possible, understanding that those illegals will be directed to vote a certain way. I'm talking about the Democrat Party in this country. It voted 100%, with one exception, to block this bill. It got through because there's more Republicans than Democrats in the House of Representatives. Here's a typical comment that was made yesterday by a Democrat representative. I'm going to read it, quote, word for word. Republicans aren't worried about non-citizens voting. They're afraid of actual American citizens voting. Why? Because they're losing support among women. This is a minefield of red tape that you put in front of women and American citizens and their right to vote. In other words, what this representative said, quite frankly, was this is designed to keep women from voting. I'm referring to Kathleen Clark. She's a representative from Massachusetts. She accuses Republicans of trying to make it harder for women to vote. She said this legislation would make it more difficult for married women to cast ballots if their surname is different than their maiden name. It's the same argument that should apply to boarding a plane, cashing a check, buying a gun, buying liquor, and so on. But for some reason, they come up with these cockamamie excuses to make it impossible to keep non-citizens from voting. How do you think this law should be interpreted? Make some comments. I'll read them and I'll respond to them. Here's the bad news. Unfortunately, this is really sad. This bill now needs to go to the Senate. The Senate, unlike the House, is not a simple matter of majority. You have to get 60 I votes, yes votes, in the Senate to pass a bill that's coming over from the House. There aren't 60 Republicans. They're short about 5 or 6, depending how many are in the House, in the Senate that day. And the fact of the matter is, the Senate is lining up big time against this bill. It will never, ever get to President Trump unless Democrat senators can be convinced to cross the line and put country over their self-indulgent personal interests. And I don't think that's going to happen. It's very, very sad. If you want to get involved and you want to be a good American, get off your butt and start, please, please, please call your senators, especially the Democrat ones. All the Republicans are going to vote for this. It makes sense. But when you have tens of millions illegal on the ballot rolls, I should say the voter rolls, and are able to cast ballots for their prescribed correct Democrat candidates, you end up with a situation like this. Please, please, please get involved. Please do whatever you can to get this to pass, because Trump will sign it in 10 seconds. Moving on to my most unfavorite political body in the world, and I mean the United Nations. The Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has just congratulated Iran on the anniversary of the 1979 revolution, where the Ayatollah Khomeini came back from Paris, courtesy of Jimmy Carter, took over the country, and started mass murdering people. They've been doing it ever since. That started in 1979. It's amazing. It's amazing that the United Nations, who has not condemned Iran for the slaughter of 40,000, 60,000 people in the streets, over 100,000 have been detained and are in prison. Many are being killed in prison without any trial. I mean, what would you try them for? Saying you wanted freedom? That's an execution cause in Iran. Nope. The UN did nothing other than congratulate them. And I've got more to tell you. Gutierrez wrote to President Masoud Pezeshkian to convey his warmest congratulations on the National Day of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, this is right after a UN body condemned Tehran for slaughtering tens of thousands of people. There are bodies everywhere in Iran right now, and I mean everywhere. But the UN, as a body, refuses to condemn it. Now, here's where it gets really weird. The UN just declared that Iran is going to be the co-chair of the Social Development Council of the United Nations. They were confirmed by unanimous consent. This body, the Economic and Social Council, or OCOSOC, as they call it, deals with economic, social, and cultural and health matters, as well as it is the leading human rights body of the United Nations. This is insane. This is like, well, appointing the Nazis in 1943 to run a human rights organization for the UN. If it existed, they probably would have done it. Here is the proof of what I'm talking about. As crazy as it sounds, it really happened.
May I take it that the Commission wishes to elect by acclamation Mr. Abbas Tajik of the Islamic Republic of Iran and Mr. Shahryar Khajiev of Azerbaijan as Vice Chairs of the 65th session of the Commission for Social Development. I hear no objection. It is so decided. On behalf of the Commission, I would like to congratulate the elected members of the Bureau.
I'm stunned. There was no objection. It was unanimous consent. The UN just confirmed Iran to sit on the huge committee that has tremendous power, that's in charge of social and economic justice, especially a concentration of human rights. This is unreal. This is why I hate the UN. This is why Trump is right. Get us out of the UN. It's a do-nothing organization that we should be paying no money for under any circumstance because of stuff like this. No condemnation, no debate, no, hey, why are we putting a Nazi in charge of human rights where they're slaughtering people by the thousands, by the tens of thousands every single day? Show of hands, who thinks this is stupid? Yeah, right here. It's already been confirmed. Happened a couple of days ago. It's unreal. This is the United Nations at work. It's disgusting. And you see why I think the UN is done as a social, economic, political organization of any value. To be honest with you, I don't know why we still belong. Okay, we got to talk about it. We're going to have a couple stories on it today. The Bad Bunny situation. Here's some news that you probably don't know because the NFL doesn't want to talk about it, but social media commentators are all over this story. Obviously, you know that the halftime show starred Bad Bunny, a transsexual, America-hating performer who refuses to perform in English. At least this time, he didn't wear a dress as he normally does. In case you wonder what he usually looks like, this is him. This is him on stage in a dress and makeup, burning an American flag. You see all the cameras out. This is what he is famous for. Really, really impressive. Apparently, based on, I would say, incredibly bad pre-Super Bowl publicity, they got him to dress like a boy and not like a girl, and not to burn any American flags. Boy, that's an improvement. However, check this out. TPUSA, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization, estimated viewers, including all of social media channels, up to 25 million people changed the channel in halftime. Wow. Is that unbelievable? It's true, but you didn't see that in the news. What you did see in the news was the fact that nobody changed the channel, according to the NFL. It is the largest defection during a Super Bowl at halftime in history. But I'm not done yet. It looks like, according to Nielsen rating service, Bad Bunny lost a bigger percentage of the Super Bowl viewership from the end of the second quarter to the start of the third quarter, in other words, halftime, than anybody in history. Is the fact that viewership declined by such a large number that what was left in the third quarter was much less than started the first quarter. But the viewers came back because they did want to see who was going to win between Seattle and New England, notwithstanding the fact that New England had no offense until the end of the game. Having said all of that, check this out. There were 135 million people watching NBC between 8 and 8:14 on Sunday, and it dropped to 128 million, meaning 7.7 million people turned off their television, didn't want to watch Bad Bunny. That is the all-time record of defections from the Super Bowl. It's never happened like that. It is an incredible amount of people voting with their remote to say, I don't want to see someone who hates America, says so, burns an American flag, has done it, I just showed you, usually performs in Spanish, not English, because, well, he doesn't like English as a language to perform in because he doesn't like America. As President Trump said, the halftime show was, quote, terrible and a slap in the face to Americans. Literally millions switched to the TPUSA show. I actually watched the TPUSA All American halftime show. It had country music, it had God, it had the Bible, and everything was in English. One more thing before we move on. I find it curious that the New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS News all reported that the crowd loved Bad Bunny and they were dancing in the aisles. You can watch video after video after video of the crowd standing in confusion, watching the show, with the hundreds of people dressed up as bushes, among other things, not understanding what they were seeing. I didn't understand what I was seeing when I went to look at it briefly, just to be able to comment on it today on the live show with you. I can tell you it was very weird, and we're going to bring you the weirdness at the conclusion of this show. You won't believe what you're going to see. I've got to talk about what's going on in the Middle East right now. Tucker Carlson, who is now being called Tucker Carlson because of the vast amounts of money he seems to have gotten from Qatar for him to be their international mouthpiece, is traveling all over, and I mean all over, everywhere. Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and so on, promoting Islam, promoting how great it is to live under Sharia, and so on. And his big attack now on Israel is the following. He says that Christians have been persecuted and are declining tremendously in population in Israel. And in the other countries in the Middle East, Christians are treated very well under Muslim governments. I'm going to say it very clearly. This is a lie. It's a very big lie. Here's the chart I want you to take a look at. Here is the evidence of what's gone on in the Middle East since the start of the last century. In Lebanon, the country was 77.5% Christian. Now it's 32%. Iraq was 6% Christian. Now it's 1%. Syria was 15% Christian. Now it's 2. Jordan, 5.8. Now it's 2. Egypt, 18.7. Now it's 5. Turkey, 21.7. Now it's 0.2%. There's virtually no Christians left in the Middle East at all, or should I say, not left in the Middle East at all, except in one place. And what I'm referring to in that one place is Israel. It's a different story there. Ted Cruz took up the mantle and gives you some facts. Let me read you what Ted Cruz said about Tucker Carlson's idiotic comments. Qatari spokesman Tucker Carlson is lying about Israel. He says, quote, there are fewer Christians now, far fewer in absolute numbers, and particularly as a percentage of the population. This is Ted Cruz going on. The Christian population, however, in Israel has grown from fewer than 40,000 in 1948, the year of the country's founding, to over 180,000 as of the end of 2025. In other words, the Christian population grew by 350%. Math is hard for Tucker Carlson. Israel is the only state, the only country in the Middle East where the Christian community is growing and thriving openly. You can be Christian, you can go to church, it's not against the law. Christians fight in the military, they're in the government, they're in the judiciary, they work in the hospitals, they're just like the Jews. Equal rights for everybody. It's not an accident. Since its inception, Israel has viewed Middle Eastern Christians first and foremost, its own Christian community, as natural allies and partners in the country. And Ted says Christians in Israel are commanders in the IDF. They are justices on the Supreme Court. They are diplomats, and they're reality TV stars. Their prosperity is reflected in their numbers. There were 34,000 Christians in 1948. Today, there's 188,000. They are full and equal citizens in Israel. They have the same legal and civil rights as Israeli Jews. Their per capita income and education levels are among the highest in Israel. Wow. I just showed you how the Christian population is down at least 95 to 99% in all the Arab countries around Israel and up 350% in Israel. Do not accept the lies coming from Tucker Carlson. They're based on nothing other than his imagination, and I assume his loyalty to Qatar to show Muslim good, Jew bad. Take a peek. Here's that chart again, and this lets you know what's happened. The numbers speak for themselves. It's not difficult math. Just look at the chart. And if Israel was on this chart, it would go straight up 350% gain in population. But then again, nobody asked Ted Cruz and nobody asked Barry Nussbaum here. I hope Tucker Carlson's loyalty to his handlers / funders in the various Arab countries is exposed for what it is. He sold out America, he sold out Israel, and he bought a place in Qatar. I think he's moving. ICE deportations continue. They're surging across the country. And great numbers, and I mean great numbers as compared to before Trump took office, seem to be getting deported. But as we showed you last week when we had Alex Dadegan from Los Angeles with her videos from the courthouse and the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, the brutality unleashed on her and a fellow reporter with police credentials and IDs was horrific. They are spray painting FUCK, ICE, kill cops, shoot cops, ICE out, and so on. They are rioting and burning federal property. It's absolutely unreal. But the one part that doesn't seem to get reported very much is this. Look at these statistics and tell me if something seems weird to you. Clinton deported 12.5 million illegals. There was never one protest. Bush, George W., comes in second at 10 million deportees. Zero protests during his administration. Obama, who spoke out very strongly against illegal immigration, deported 5.2 million. Zero protest. Biden actually deported 7 million. Of course, he let in probably 20, but zero protest. Thus far, as of a month ago, Trump was at 1.2 million, and people are tearing down federal buildings, attacking ICE officers as if this is some sort of revolutionary cause. Are you really seeing these numbers? It ought to shock you because Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Biden way outperformed what's going on now. I can't explain it other than we hate Trump, and this is just another way of showing it. To show you how much the world has changed. Do you know who was the head of deportations under President Obama? Tom Homan. The same Tom Homan who has the job again under Trump. Obama was so proud of the job, this is not a joke, that Tom Homan did for him, that he gave him the Presidential Award as a distinguished executive within the federal government. Here's that award ceremony. Grinning Tom Homan getting the gold medal around his neck from President Obama. Obama loved him. 10 times the amount of deportations going on now, and now Tom Homan wants to be killed, according to, or needs to be killed, I should say, according to most of the people that are demonstrating against ICE. Don't forget this picture. This tells a completely different story, doesn't it? Does to me. I wonder if someone should ask Barack Obama, remember Tom Homan? Remember when you put the medal around his neck for handling deportations and now you hate him? Interesting, isn't it? Well, there's another mass shooting and another devastated community. And community leaders are now asking, what could have caused this? Why are there so many horrific attacks being carried out? And is anybody asking this question nationally, as they should be, which is, why are so many of these shooters trans people? Self identifying as trans, on narcotics for depression that apparently are being described as wildly distributed to people of trans self identification. Canada just had one of the largest shootings in their history. It's the deadliest school shooting in the history of Canada. Police identified the shooter as 18-year-old biological male Jesse Van Roosteren, which is this guy with his gun, who now says he's trans. They don't report that as the cause of the shooting, nor the drugs that he's on. In fact, they're not even reporting this guy. This is him. This is a picture he posted. He sure looks like a guy to me. In Canada, they report him as a her because at the time of the shooting, he self identified as a girl. Nobody is making the link between trans identification, mental illness, and the drugs they're on, leading to mass shootings, of which there have been dozens. There are now some studies out, this is not a joke, that are saying almost every single mass shooting by someone who identifies as trans was on drugs. And it's almost all the shootings. I mean, there's a very, very long list. It's not an isolated incident. Here's a couple on a list. Over the past couple of years, a disturbing number of mass attacks are involving individuals who identify as trans. In Nashville, the transgender self identifying shooter murdered 6 people at a Christian school. In Minneapolis, an attacker with a documented gender identity turmoil attacked a church. The alleged murderer of Charlie Kirk had a transgender association boyfriend girlfriend lifestyle. And yet the media says that violence is caused by mental illness and transgender self identification and the drugs are on is just a coincidence. They don't want to mention trans because that would stigmatize it. For example, Robin Westman, he was identified as the shooter of the Annunciation Catholic School and Church in Minneapolis. He identified as trans. He killed a lot of kids. He was on those same drugs. Have we gotten to the point where we can say out loud what everyone should be saying out loud? Quite simply, there's some kind of connection between this mental illness of I'm not a boy anymore, now I'm a girl, or vice versa. I need to be on certain drugs, and it causes me to want to kill people. In Canada right now, in a small town, the whole town is grieving, and yet no officials are saying anything about the fact that trans has anything to do with it. No one's saying anything that the drugs that the doctors are prescribing has anything to do with it. Doesn't that shake you up? Doesn't that bother you? It sure bothers me. I can't figure out why. I don't know why it's happening, but I do know that the news has to be more accurate, period. What could you say? It's just not right. We're going to wrap it up with my favorite, not halftime show of all time, which is Bad Bunny. Um, I wasn't going to show this. And then I thought, after all the news that's come out that says, isn't it great? The Super Bowl had a guy in Spanish. He sang in Spanish. It was a wholesome entertainment. There was nothing sexual. It was good family entertainment. I saw that on CBS. I saw that on CNN. Washington Post reported that. So did the New York Times. A lot of celebrities have come out and said, how dare you attack him? It was the most wholesome show since, and then they would give a name. Taylor Swift, Michael Jackson, whatever. I want you to see this video of Bad Bunny. And it's got some translations on it because, well, it's all in Spanish. So notwithstanding the fact that everyone was standing up in the sold out crowd in California, trying to figure out what they were looking at, understanding none of it, here's a little bit of translation for you.
Agárralo como bonga, se metió una que la pone cachonda, ey, bríncalo, Audi lo hondo, ey, si te lo mando no me llames, que esto no es pa' que me ames, si tu novio no te, pa' eso que no, ey, en el perreo no se quita, Pumi se pone bella, ey, me llama si me necesita, ey, pero por ahora está solita.
If you could read the lyrics, you need to wash your eyes out with soap. It is horrifically sexual. It is so gross. I hope that every broadcaster, every TV personality, everybody in Hollywood that has come out and said, oh, this is great, wholesome family entertainment, read the lyrics silently so your kids don't hear it. And I might add, then call it out for what it is. It's literally pornography on the air in front of the biggest crowd in Super Bowl history. It's disgusting. It's gross. It has no place in American sports. It has no place on the biggest stage the NFL can produce. And the idea that Roger Goodell approved all this, he's the commissioner of the NFL, is horrifying. You saw what the lyrics were. You're welcome to go look it up yourself. It's horrific. That's what we've got for today. I want to remind a couple people out there in TV land that have not yet subscribed to our various channels. Please go to Instagram. We had a disaster with our Instagram account. We went from 570,000 followers way down because, well, long story, we got attacked. Had to create a new Instagram account, The American Truth Project. If you go there to follow, we sure appreciate it. In addition, you can go to findberry.com. That takes us to our website. You can sign up for free to be on our mailing list. We never charge for content, and we will send you all the information that you need to see that you're not getting elsewhere. Findberry.com. Sign up for free. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Sign up everywhere. We would appreciate you to like, follow, and subscribe. Tell your friends as well. That's all we've got for today. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. In the meantime, have a wonderful week.